This is the Buwwy Breakdown recorded Wednesday, June 22nd, 2022, and today we're talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay, hello everybody. How's it going? I hope everything's going well. Yesterday's episode was very good. If you haven't seen it, yesterday we did a discussion about AMC, or not AMC, well, it's AMC kind of, movie theaters and if they're dying, if that's a good thing, how I feel about that, which is spoiler alert, I feel great about that. It's an interesting episode and a fun one. Also, check out my Twitch. I know I'm doing a lot of plugs here, but check out my Twitch. I stream there all the time now. And my main YouTube channel, I'm currently in production on 2 videos that I need to work on, and I'll do that today. Anyways, before we get into Kenobi, and don't worry for those who want the finale, my perspective on the finale, why would you? But just to hear another perspective, I will put a thing in the description to take you to that, a timestamp. But I'm going to introduce a new segment to the show here. Jack's weight loss journey is going to be what it's called, or maybe not. That's kind of lame. But essentially what I'm going to do here is I'm going to talk about my weight loss journey that I just recently started. So let me give you a bit of background here. So last year I started thinking, oh, Jack, you should lose some weight. And I got this app called Lose It. It's basically a calorie counter. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And I did it for about a month, and I lost a good amount of weight. I did it on the most aggressive, lose 2 pounds a week plan, which probably isn't healthy, but I said I want to lose it. And I lost I think 6 pounds or something within that month and a few days, I think, or not, maybe not 6 pounds. I think more like 4 or something, but relatively, I lost a decent amount of weight in that relatively short amount of time. But now I'm getting a different goal, and I have about 2 months and a week to play with before I think school actually starts. And I want to do it that's just a arbitrary deadline. I'll continue to track my stuff because it'll be easier. When I was in the dorms, they had a lot of food that I didn't necessarily know the calories for, and I didn't care to, enter them in while I'm picking shit out, right? Because that's embarrassing. But I'm going to do it since I'm making my own food and shit. So quickly, let me tell you how I did it now. I'm just going to give you, I tracked Sunday. I started this yesterday. So let me tell you my weight loss goal first. And I encourage you guys to do this in chat. Or do this in it's not Twitch. And do this and put your stuff in the comments. I'd love to hear how it's going, how you what your weigh-ins are, what you're eating, if you're above or below. Seriously, I'm genuinely interested, and I want you guys to do this with me. Anyway, so I'm 20 years old, 5'9". That is a male, 20 years old, 5'9". Current weight, I weighed it just actually today. I'm weighing it every morning. Yesterday it was a little low, I think. It was 203.8 or something. So, or 203.2 or 4 or something. I don't remember. But today I weighed it. It seemed to be, I guess, a little more accurate. 204.4. That is the current weight I am as of 5 minutes ago. Activity level. I put not active, although I am working out. And by working out, I mean playing Ring Fit Adventure for the Nintendo Switch. Which, I don't necessarily want to go to a gym. I hate gyms. And I don't want to... I would run. I did run last year, and that worked wonders. But it's first of all, it's a little too hot right now. And second of all, I'm in a new community. That's kind of embarrassing. And there's not a lot of great places to necessarily run that are walking distance. I don't want to drive. I don't want to drive somewhere to run. That's too much work. So I put not active, but that might change to somewhat active if I see a trend of me doing Ring Fit Adventure. Yesterday's workout, I did Ring Fit Adventure for an hour. It was tough. I think my legs, I did some squats. I did 3 reps of squats there, and they killed me there. Jesus Christ. Anyways, budget type standard, which just means it's the free version of the app. So I encourage you also to use this app. It's a very good app. it just gives you the same things. You can, if you pay for the upgrade version, you can choose to get more on like the weekend or something. But yeah, so my goal weight is 196.9. Or sorry, my rate, this is the rate I should be losing weight at, is right in the middle, 1 pound a week. You can choose up to 2 pounds, or as little as just maintain your current weight. Not even lose weight, just maintain it. So I'm going lose 1 a week. That gives me 1,814 calories a day to play with. And my goal weight is 196.9. So that's losing about 8 pounds. And that they say that if I do the thing based on my current weight and budget, I should get there by August 14th. So that'll be in about 2 months. And that'll be right in time for when my goal is. So that's what we're doing. I'm doing, again, 1 pound per week. So I want to make sure I'm doing it not too much. And I want to give myself a little bit of wiggle room because I like food. So I recorded Sunday. I was 56 under the budget, which for some reason was only 1,557. Didn't eat much, just had some hot dogs and some buttered popcorn and a couple Cokes from the movies, because we went to see the movies. It was Father's Day, so not too much there. Monday, yesterday is when we start to, Monday, June 20th, is where we start to get a little hairy here. That's when I started counting these. And I had a budget of 2,290. I ate 2,593, which meant I was 303 over, which is not good. It's not that bad. 303 isn't too much. But that's what was Monday. Now Tuesday, yesterday, is when I started weighing. And yesterday was a bad day. I will admit. Yesterday was a snack. I won't say why, but I was snacking the entire night. Way too much. I ate my full load of snacks I had just bought. But that I ate 4,391 calories. I exercised to lose 623 off of that. But that still leaves me with a net of 3,768, which is 1,961 over my budget of 1,807. So yesterday was a really bad one. I had way too much to eat. Way too much. Actually, I even forgot to put ketchup on here because I had ketchup. So I'm gonna put what do I think I had? Yeah, probably around this. So let's just add that. Okay, now we're an even 2019. Not even, but we're over 2,000 over. So that means we are 2,322 over for Monday and Tuesday. That's when the week starts on here. It's not Sunday, but currently I am 1,674 under as of recording for today. So hopefully we can have a late lunch, late dinner, and kind of make sure we have 5 days to we can do it as long as it's like 300, 400 calories under a day. We'll catch back up to that. So we'll be okay. I think we'd have to get around 500, 450, 500, somewhere around there a day. I should be able to do that. And I'll exercise, so that'll lose some of that calories as well. So anyways, that is that. Okay, so I encourage you also to do this in chat. It's a very interesting, fun exercise to do. And we'll see our long-term gains, dude. I'm excited. Okay, Kenobi, Editor Jack. Make sure you put a timestamp here in the description. I was initially going to talk about the entire show today, but I don't think I'm going to do. Well, I think I will. I think I'm going to do it tomorrow. I think I'm going to let it marinate, let the show marinate, and talk about how I felt about the show. Instead, I'm going to talk about the finale, which we'll get a lot of the full show. Like, I'll still discuss about the full show because a lot of my complaints with the finale has to do with the rest of the show. So we'll be getting a lot of that discussion in anyways today. So let's just talk about that finale. I watched it yesterday when it came out at like 2 a.m. It was 53 or so minutes, which is another thing I want to talk about in my general thing, but these episodes are way too short. I don't think I did it on, I don't know if I did it on an episode here on stream, but I looked at a lot of the Marvel shows for their episodes, and they are all consistently over 50 minutes. They are always over that. I don't think they're very rarely that they're under that. But yet you see some Star Wars episodes going even into the 30s in terms of minutes. I don't think there were any 30 minutes in this one. There might have been a 39. Maybe not. I think there was like a 42 was less or something. But that is something that needs to be fixed, is the length of these. They need to be longer. I just feel like we're not spending enough time with these characters, and a lot of things are getting rushed, which leads to a lot of the things in this feeling rushed. So let's just start out with how the episode began. The episode began with it started out with Reva. It started out with her like asking people around if they know a farmer named Owen, and then these people come to Owen because Owen's well respected in the community, which I like. I like that Owen was, well known and he was respected as a person. But they end up informing him, and then they do this whole Owen and Beru do this entire like lockdown of the homestead, in order to takes out like the shotgun, like, oh, we have to fight, in order to take Reva, because if you remember, Reva knows about Luke and knows about the children. Okay, so first of all, this came out of nowhere. This whole thing came out of absolutely nowhere. I don't know. This was clearly a way. The thing I hate about what they did here is they used Luke as a plot device to get Reva a resolution, because Reva is, I mean, this is all spoilers, but at the end, Reva couldn't kill Luke because it's too much like herself, and they do it so I hate when Star Wars is so obvious with their like character thought process, because it always happens like that. It always happens so obvious. She's looking at Luke, and then instead of Luke, it'll be her, and she's looking at her own dead body, and it's like, yeah, we know, we get it. People predicted this from episode 1. Like, we get it. But anyway, so I'll just talk about Reva now. This whole thing happens. They fight Reva. Luke runs. Reva. It's just a lame action scene that goes nowhere until she ends up realizing she can't kill Luke. And then Obi-Wan he eventually comes back to her and goes, "Hey, it's okay. You chose to honor them. You chose not to go the way Vader went." And it seems there's gonna be, I believe they had a show lined up for Reva, and it seems that that show is going to take place after this show, I presume. So she'll just be out and about doing whatever she's doing. But I thought her whole arc was done. It was just so rushed. Her entire character, I'm not even blaming Moses Ingram at all. I think she gave a very good performance. I think her scene where she's crying about everything and going nuts, I think it's a very good piece of acting there. And I'll admit, I didn't think her acting was that great in many of the other episodes. I think she struggled to play a part that was a lot more, instead of being intimidating in terms of like an authoritarian perspective, like she didn't feel like she all her authority came from her yelling and the tone of her voice. It didn't come from the way she acted or the way she used her words or her voice. Her voice is just always at 10. That's why the Grand Inquisitor was so much more interesting character. He had a way of speaking that was intimidating. Like, he was always thinking, he had patience and stuff. And I get that's Reva's whole point, is she's a little more like Anakin in that sense, where she doesn't have that patience. She's definitely more aggressive. However, I just think everything was rushed, and I think since whether it be her acting in the first episodes or the way this character is written through all 6 episodes, which is I think this character was written terribly and was a bad character and an unnecessary inclusion into the Obi-Wan show. Of course, not for her race or anything, just simply the character's purpose. I think that's more to blame. And yeah, it was just not a necessarily a satisfying ending, because we knew exactly what was going to happen. Everyone knew she was going to turn good by the end, and have a change of heart. So let's get into the other stuff. Just that'll be the end of my Reva. I'll talk about her more when I talk about the full series, but yeah, I just don't think her build up and her resolution were necessarily impactful at all. Okay. Let's talk about the more interesting things. So there are 2 other storylines going on. There are basically 3 storylines, right? Well, not really. I mean, kind of. This episode ended its central conflict very early, relatively. They still had like a good 15 minutes before the actual episode ended, once everything was kind of over, which is fine. I don't mind. But maybe not 15, maybe more like 10. I don't know. But so they're getting chased by the ship Last Jedi. Well, not Last Jedi style. But what I really enjoyed about this episode was the ship combat, because you could tell that they were doing practical effects. You could tell that the Star Destroyer was practical, and the other things. I really, really enjoyed that. I liked when they did that in The Mandalorian. I love when they did that here. It made everything feel more OG Star Wars, and they even replicated certain shots from a new, like A New Hope, that initial iconic opening. Not the part where the Star Destroyer is going over the entire frame, but the shot after that, where it's the Star Destroyer in the background shooting at Leia's ship. Very similar shot here. There's shots from Empire here that are reminiscent of the Millennium Falcon evading the Star Destroyer. I love that kind of shit, and I'm glad they did that. Anyway, so they're being chased, and they don't have a hyperdrive, and they need more time. And Obi-Wan says, I'll sacrifice myself. I'll take an escape ship, and he'll come after me. And he does. The ship gets away, and he has a little sweet moment with Leia. I like everything they did with Obi-Wan and Leia here. Their entire every discussion they had was a great payoff, and I felt like those two had such a great chemistry, and I'm so happy with how that ended. I was kind of egging on for little Leia to be done after like episode 3 or 4 or something, but I'm actually genuinely glad she was in this show that long, to have that payoff with her be meaningful. But I'll get to that a little later. What I want to talk about is Kenobi and Vader. And so Kenobi ends up able to the Star Destroyer. There's a little, the Grand Inquisitor saying, Vader, we have to take this ship. I know you want Kenobi, but we have to take this ship. We can snuff out this entire band of rebels and this entire cell. And he's like, no, we got to go after Kenobi. And the Star Destroyer turns and goes after Kenobi. And eventually Darth Vader takes his own personal shuttle down. And we get a fantastic fight scene between Vader and Obi-Wan that for me doesn't necessarily break the chronology of A New Hope. I loved this fight so much. This is one of the better Star Wars fights, lightsaber fights, in a while. Definitely better than most things in the sequels, I feel, just because it had a lot of, not all things in the sequels. I think there's some good lightsaber fights, but this was a fantastic lightsaber fight. I mean, the choreography was fine. It was not Revenge of the Sith, but I don't, these characters are older. They're different. I don't expect this to be Revenge of the Sith. However, they did harken back to Revenge of the Sith many times. Specifically, I think Vader went like, are you here to destroy me? And he's like, I'll do what I must. And it's like, wow, he said that. He said the thing. That's amazing. And I love that he harkened back, and he even did his pose that he did, the Obi-Wan Kenobi, finger pose. That was great. And I don't remember what Darth Vader said, but he said something that Anakin says. I don't want to quote it wrong. I want to say he says, "You will try," like he did. But no, it definitely wasn't. I'll look for it here very quickly because I want to get it right. I'm sure people are typing their comments in right now. Jack, you're such an idiot. You're such a stupid idiot. Hold on. Give me a minute. Give me a second. I will do what I must. And he says it in a great way. Yeah, he does the thing. Sorry, I'm watching it right now. Then you will die. That's the one. You will die. Or whatever, however Hayden says it. But yeah, no, it harkens back to Revenge of the Sith. And the whole episode is interesting. It was intercut with this Reva and Owen fight, which was whatever. What I didn't necessarily care. But what the most important part is I like how, for example, first of all, Obi-Wan's back. They show him berating Darth Vader with rocks. I mean, Obi-Wan is back in the Force, dude. There's no stopping him now. And it was all because, and I love this part, Vader goes on the ground and breaks this hole in or starts this big crater in the floor, and Obi-Wan falls in it, and Vader's throwing all the rocks on Obi-Wan, and we know he's not dead, but we think he's in a deep lot of shit. But it ends up being revealed after and they do cuts to the high ground. They do cuts from Obi-Wan's perspective. Vader's up there. I would have probably rolled my eyes if Vader said something snarky, but I do think it would be in Vader's character to say that. To say it it's over, Obi-Wan, I have the high ground, or something like that, just in a snarky way. But I can't act, but in a way that's like, finally, like the way he was like, and now you will suffer, like when he did the thing over the fire. But anyways, it eventually is revealed, Obi-Wan is going on. It's revealed that Obi-Wan's using the Force on the rocks, and he's starting to slip when he starts thinking of all the bad things. They play voices of the fight on Mustafar and all the negative stuff that's happened to Obi-Wan, and then he starts thinking, and then they cut back to Leia, and he gets the strength to move it, which is sweet, which is a genuinely sweet moment. I like that. So then Obi-Wan comes back, they fight a little more, and then Obi-Wan eventually starts beating the shit out of Vader, and it is embarrassing. It is crazy. Vader is getting his ass kicked, and I loved seeing how robotic the movements are and how defeated he is, and he just keeps going. It's just this hulking menace is relegated to just this weak creature who can barely walk at this moment, and it's just now the machine is starting to unravel, and we're starting to see how Anakin is truly trapped in there. And they do this fantastic thing like they did in Rebels. They did the exact same thing that they did in Rebels with Ahsoka, and cut the mask open so that we can now see Hayden as Anakin, and we can hear him as well. And this sequence is one of the greatest Star Wars sequences I have seen in a long time. This was an amazing sequence with Vader and Anakin. Not only is Ewan's acting amazing, I absolutely love how he acted in the scene. You could see from it was beautiful, from the blue in the lightsaber in his eyes. You could see the tears, the wetness, start to form in his eyes, and he's just stunned. He's just shocked I mean, this is a man who is seeing his friend, that he's his brother, just reduced to this machine, and he's just all scarred and broken, and he's like a psychopath. And Obi-Wan's just all he can say is, "I'm sorry." He can't do anything anymore. He's truly lost. That's all he can do, and he's finally accepted that he's gone. I mean, there's nothing to do. And that was brilliant. And the way way Anakin acted like a psychopath. Like, I love the line of, "You didn't kill him, I killed him." I mean, it's just like a Norman Bates kind of just creepy person who's lost all touch with reality. And the way they blend Hayden's voice with James Earl Jones's voice was amazing. And to see the pain in Hayden's eyes was just, oh my God, it was a shocking moment. It was fantastic. It didn't make me necessarily cry my eyes out, but I mean, it was just like it was a painful moment to watch. But it also gave Obi-Wan, I think, some acceptance. I think it gave Obi-Wan some ability to do what he did in A New Hope. I think it was a really great way to tie that in. It was sorry. I don't know how much I can. I mean, this is by far the best sequence in this show. It was brilliant. Anyways, before instead of raving on that, let's talk about the end of this episode, the last like 15 minutes or so. So after their fight, Vader is all good. He's all back in his normal suit, and we get Ian McDiarmid as the Emperor, which is great. Although, admittedly, it does feel like he recorded his thing in his own home behind a green screen or something. But whatever, I don't care. I love seeing him playing, original trilogy era Palpatine. And it's really what I really love. I really love this. This is really subtle, and you will never hear me say, it's like a Red Letter Media thing. You will never hear me say subtle talking about a Star Wars thing, because I mean, this is the same fucking people. I think the people who wrote this Darth Vader Obi-Wan shit are different because there are like 3 writers attached to this. One of this being Andrew Stanton, who is one of the greatest creative minds of our fucking time. He was the one who wrote, I believe he wrote and directed. Hold on, let me make sure. He wrote Toy Story and Toy Story 2. I probably co-wrote it, but I mean, he wrote it. He directed and wrote WALL-E, which is my favorite Pixar movie and one of the greatest movies of all time. Finding Nemo, he also wrote and directed, as well as Finding Dory, whatever. But I mean, seriously, I feel like they had different writing teams on these, because the way the subtleties of things happened compared to Reva, there were 2 different writing teams. You will never convince me that they had one writing team focused on Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, and one writing team focused on Reva and the rest. But there's a great moment where the Emperor, and I'm getting the quote right here. What he's talking about, the Emperor's like, your former feelings for your old master are not serving you well or making you weak in the Force. And he says, this is great. And he says, oh, I love this. The Emperor says, if your feelings cannot be overcome, clearly like a trigger word or something, because Darth Vader then perks up and immediately says, Obi-Wan means nothing to me, which is like very reminiscent for me of this guy's brainwashed. I mean, this guy, the Emperor, has done some fucked up shit to Darth Vader, man, to get him to respond like that to that prompt. I mean, I genuinely feel, and because he like perked up and it's like a robotic response, and I absolutely loved the subtlety in that, the way that, I mean, that was, it just perfectly illuminates how the connection of the Emperor to Vader is at this moment in time. I just love it. There's some great stuff in this show when you get it right. And that's one of them. And then right after he says that, we get a pan out from Darth Vader on his throne, and just pans out slowly, and we hear finally, fucking finally, the Imperial March in a fucking Star Wars show. And this is I'll talk about this more in just a second, but finally we get to hear that stupid fucking theme. And that's a big reason why I hated a lot of this show, is because why aren't we using Star Wars themes? I get we're trying to do original themes here, but it's Darth Vader. I mean, you have to use the Imperial March whenever he's on screen. It doesn't, I know people probably say maybe it diminishes the power of that theme, but it doesn't. The theme's been around for decades, and it's been used in every possible scenario, and it could have been used to underscore a lot of great moments here, especially in that fight of Obi-Wan and Anakin. Maybe you could play around with some of those themes, like Anakin's theme. Like, if they mixed Anakin's theme and Vader's theme in this, and if I would have I don't know. I know Natalie Holt, who did Loki, is doing it, and she did a fine job in Loki, but fuck, she did a terrible job here. I'm sorry. I don't want to be mean, but she did a god-awful job. I don't know if it was her creative decision not to use the songs until this episode, or if it was from Disney. I doubt it would be from Disney, that the top execs that would do that. I don't know, maybe. But whosever decision that was should be fired. I think that's a terrible... The best part of being able to tell these stories are to be able to use the original trilogy music. So that made me upset. But anyways, Leia's getting ready now. She's got Obi-Wan, by the way, gave her that holster from the bitch who died last episode. And now she's dressed up with the holster, and she's like, I'm starting a new point in my life. And I love that now, since Obi-Wan kind of gave her a little bit of her kick, a little bit of her spunk, and I liked that. So, and then Bale's like, yo, Leia, looking badass today, I see. And Jimmy Smits just loves it. And then they have a sweet little thing with Obi-Wan saying, Obi-Wan talking to Jimmy Smits and is like, yo, if you need me ever again, you know where I am, you're welcome. And then he talks to Leia, and he says, and I love this, you asked me if I knew about your mother. And he's like, yes. And they're playing Leia's theme, by the way, during this little monologue, which I'll get to in a minute. But he's like, you're loving, you're caring, you're intelligent, you're blah, blah, blah. These are all from your mother, and you're strong and forthright and noble, or whatever. And it's like, these are gifts from your father. And during this whole time, Leia's theme is playing, and I loved that. I loved Leia's theme. I loved that they were connecting Obi-Wan and Leia with Padme and Anakin. I loved that. I absolutely loved that. It was like when it was like when Obi-Wan in episode 4 told Luke about Anakin, and it was very reminiscent of that, and I loved it. I really loved it. And it was great, and I'm glad that happened. But what was I saying? Yeah, Leia's theme is playing, and then immediately after that, and then I love this. And he's like, oh, you give me favorite help from a tired old man. And it's like, oh, Alec Guinness is guy. I love it. I love when they connect episode 4 is a great fucking movie. And then he goes, yeah, goodbye, princess. May the force be with you. And then the force theme plays for a while there. And of course, you're sitting there in your chair going, fuck, dude, it's good to hear these songs again. Jesus Christ. I don't have much to say new about the songs being used. I'm just saying, again, I would have liked to hear a little bit of Leia's theme mixed in with some of the action or something when she's doing something. But whatever. It's nice that it's used here, so I'm not going to bitch too much. But very, very good. And then after that, Obi-Wan packs up. He's leaving his home, his little fucking cave. And before he leaves, he goes to... By the way, Ewan in this episode, I don't know what it is, but he looks fantastic in this episode. He looks amazing in this episode. He looks he looks great. He looks exactly like I think Obi-Wan would look at. I don't know if anyone else has been feeling that, but sometimes he felt a little off. But this is true Obi-Wan. Anyways, I'll get to that in a minute. But he goes and says whatever to Owen with his toy. He brought the toy. Obi-Wan did. If you remember the little ship that's in episode 4. Also love that. Also absolutely love that they made Obi-Wan give him that. I think that's really fantastic. I love that because it just ties in. It's a good, nice tie-in because every time he thinks of that toy, he's thinking about greater adventures and what it could be, and that's what it feels like Ben promises. And I loved that callback. Anyways, so they have a little discussion about like, yeah, he's like, I thought you were going to keep your distance. And Obi-Wan's like, yep, I am. Because you're right. He needs to grow like a boy. And so Owen, and they like leave. There's more to the dialogue than that. But Obi-Wan starts heading back and Owen's like, hey, you want to meet him? And Obi-Wan gives a big smile and he's coming with his toy to meet Luke in the next cut. And then we get it. I didn't expect this. I don't know why I didn't expect it, but I just had the biggest grin on my face when he said hello there. Fantastic. And he gives a little smirk too. I absolutely love that. I don't know if, I mean, that's fan service as shit. That's the definition of fan service, but that was really nice. And I'm glad they have that callback to Alec Guinness. That's great. This whole ending is like a completely different episode than anything else. I mean, it's finally what we all wanted to see from this kind of shit. And then we get a cut, and my favorite part of the episode. I replayed this part a billion times, even though it was incredibly short. Obi-Wan is about to go through this kind of this big, between these two big like mountains or something. I don't know, but he's about to go somewhere exciting. And right before he starts to enter the little crevice or the little, place, Qui-Gon's Force Ghost shows up. Whoo! I mean, we knew Qui-Gon was going to be in this show because he kept saying, "Master Qui-Gon, I need help." And I love it. I love it so much because I love Qui-Gon. If you didn't know, Qui-Gon is my favorite Jedi. Love Liam Neeson in the role. I think Qui-Gon was the best part of the Phantom Menace and the most interesting part of the entire prequel trilogy as it relates to the Jedi and how the philosophy of the Force and all of that. I thought he was the most interesting aspect of those films. Anyways, so it's Liam Neeson, obviously, again, similar to Ian McDiarmid. It seems like it's this green screen in his home. They're not acting together in the same scene, but it's genuinely wonderful to see. And Liam Neeson looks really good for being, fucking 23 years outside of the role. And he was already relatively old back then, relatively older. So it was great to see him in this role. I don't know if there was some de-aging going on, but that's Qui-Gon, man. That is totally Qui-Gon. And the way Obi-Wan perks up, their whole thing is short, but Qui-Gon is like, I was beginning to think you'd never come. That's what Obi-Wan says. And the way Ewan's a fantastic actor. The way he delivered that and the way his boyish delight is exactly ripped out of the Phantom Menace. And the way he's able to get that specific what's the word I'm looking for? Mannerisms and attitude that he had, because he had different perspectives. I mean, different. He wasn't a different character, but he was different points in his life in the prequels. And the Phantom Menace, he has distinct performances in the Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. And the one from Phantom Menace doesn't get as much love. And he had that little perk up when he's like, I was beginning to think you'd never come. And it was just like he's in the presence of his former teacher. It's like, it's just that kind of, that he thought was dead forever. I mean, it's just that kind of charm and excitement. And Qui-Gon says, well, I was always there. You just weren't ready to see me. And the fact that Qui-Gon was always there is such a great comfort to me, knowing that. Now I know where Qui-Gon was the whole time. He was just there. I love that. And I love that Qui-Gon totally would do that. I love that so much. Qui-Gon knows shit, man. And the thing is I wish this episode would have continued. I wish season 2 is just literally the Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan walking through this place and just talking about everything. I would please Disney. I know Liam Neeson probably doesn't want to do any more than he just did, but genuinely that would be wonderful. And then he's like, let's get, and then old Qui-Gon's like, yo, let's get going. Let's head out. And then he forces out. And then, yeah, he's presumably leading the way like he did for Yoda in the Clone Wars. Maybe not. I don't know. But that was great. That was all great. So there's plenty of positives to this episode. Qui-Gon being numero uno, but genuinely, I think this episode was impressive. It was honestly one of the more impressive things out of Star Wars for me in a while. I think the most thing that affected me the most was Luke Skywalker in Book of Boba Fett, but this is right up there, dude. It was just prequel love, and it was a fantastic bridge from the prequels to the original trilogy, and exploring Obi-Wan. But if I can't help but think, like, finally, I think this episode, is a okay. This forgives the sins of the rest of the show, kind of. I mean, the rest of the show was completely different than this episode. And this episode is all the stuff we wanted to see, right? We wanted to see Qui-Gon. We knew we were going to see him. We wanted to see Obi-Wan and Leia's resolution here, which we finally got to see. We wanted to see Vader and Obi-Wan kind of have a discussion about Anakin and what the deal is with that and where Anakin is and how that relates and all of that. And we finally got all that stuff. And again, we got Reva's conclusion, whether you liked it or not, but we got it. So I feel like a lot of these things are undercut by the rest of the series, by how the rest of the series was and how slow the rest of the series was. And I just don't I don't think I'd have a fun time rewatching this series. I really don't. This episode was fun because it delivered on what I wanted to see from the series, but the rest of the episodes were very, other than a few great things. For example, the flashback sequences. I love those flashback sequences. And not just for the fact that they were just flashback sequences. I loved those sequences because they served the story. They showed what the characters, not only back then, were thinking, but the characters in modern day are thinking. They used the strategy. Obi-Wan's using that as an example of how Vader thinks, and he's able to predict, and similarly for Vader. And it also harkens back to a lot of other things. There's a move in there where Anakin is doing to Obi-Wan that Luke did to Vader in episode 6. If you remember, Vader's getting beaten down, and right before Luke cuts Vader's hand off in episode 6. It's a similar thing. It's like poetry; they rhyme. But stuff like that. So the flashbacks actually had a purpose. And again, I'm genuinely wondering if those are written by a different writing crew. The writing staff is so interesting here, and I'd love to know how it happened, because again, let me look it up. Teleplay by Joby Harold, Andrew Stanton, and Hussein Amini. Hassan, something. So 3 different people. Now, I don't know who wrote any of it, what, but I wonder if they were responsible for different things, because it feels like, and I don't mean to single out, Joby and Hassan or Hussein as being bad writers, but For some reason, Andrew Stanton has a pedigree to him. He wrote Toy Story. He wrote WALL-E. He wrote and directed WALL-E. I mean, this man is a creative legend. And I think he only did these last 2 episodes. I don't think he did any other episodes, which is interesting to me. It's super interesting to me. And, you know, these last 2 episodes are really good. You know, these are really impressive episodes. Yeah, so he was only a writer for parts 5 and 6. That's fascinating. That's genuinely fascinating. I don't know. I don't know if anyone else thinks it's fascinating, but there's clearly I don't know. There's some reason they brought that in. I just don't know what. I just don't know what happened there. I genuinely don't. Excuse me. Sorry. I don't know. It's weird. It's just weird. They brought this guy in for parts. I don't know about let's look up Joby. Joby Harold. He wrote 6 episodes. He was credited for 6 episodes. And Hussein Amini. Hussein. He wrote... It doesn't say. It doesn't have a note, so I'm presuming he made 6 he wrote 6 episodes. It's interesting. Yeah. Oh, no. Hussein Amini only wrote 5 of the 6 episodes. He didn't write part 4. That was Hannah Friedman. Dude, no wonder. Episode 4 sucked. Honestly. Oh, never mind. He didn't write 5 either. That was Joby Harold and Andrew Stanton. Anyways, I'm trying to look up. Anyways, I don't want to have too much long silence here. But it's interesting. It's and here's they have a chart on Rotten Tomatoes here. I didn't even on Wikipedia here. Part 2 had a 90% positive reviews. Part 185, part 3 about 85. Part 4 was the lowest by far, about 60, which is understandable. That episode sucked. And then part 5 is around 85, and then part 6 is back up to about 80. It's not as high as episode 2 for some reason, but it's just about 90. I don't know. Anyways, I think I'm done talking about it. But there's some interesting things that I'm sure a lot of people smarter than me will dissect about the background of this, the production of this. But there's clearly something in the writing that changed at parts 4 and 5, or parts 5 and 6. But yeah, anyways, that's all I have to say about Kenobi. I'll do my thoughts overall in a future episode. But for now, I'd give the show I'd give this episode like a B+, A- probably. B+. I think there was plenty of problems, specifically Reva, so I don't want to give since a good third of the episode is dedicated to her, I don't want to give it too high a rating, but I think a B+ is good because I think a lot of the stuff is strong and a lot of the ending is very strong as well. So I'd give it probably a B+. In terms of the series, I'd give it like a B-, C+, because it has a lot of good stuff, but for most of it, it's genuinely a meh experience. But Yeah, I'd say a C plus, B minus. You know, I'd give like Mando season 1 an A. I'd give Mando season 2 like an A as well, I guess. A minus. I don't know. Probably like A minus, yeah. Book of Boba Fett probably a I don't know. Book of Boba Fett's probably like a C minus. Probably a C minus. Those great Luke Skywalker shit and the Mando shit made it. I know that those shouldn't necessarily count, but they made it worthwhile. And then yeah, and then this would probably be around a C plus, B minus. So not near the heights of Mandalorian, but pretty good nonetheless. Yeah, you know, I'd love to hear what you guys think about the show. What you guys would give in terms of a grade. But you know, in terms of the future of Star Wars, I'm hopeful. I think this is gonna get a season 2. I know this is supposed to be a limited series. But you know, I'm sure there's going to be enough demand. I'm sure Disney is working on a season 2 right now, and there's probably definitely more stories to tell. So we'll see. I would not be opposed to a season 2, but you know, I'm not necessarily eager about it. I don't know what they can do. I think this wrapped up pretty nicely. So we'll see what they do with the season 2, but I'm not necessarily that hopeful. I'm a little hopeful, but anyways, that's all. That's going to do it for me. Pretty long episode today. Sorry for going so long. I've been, as of late, I've been doing very brief episodes, shorter episodes. But yeah, I don't think I have anything to plug necessarily. Check out my Twitch for sure. But yeah, I hope you have a fantastic evening, and whatever you're doing, make the most of it. Makes it that much better. And I will see you guys for the next one. And have a fantastic day. Godspeed.